What we see happening here is a sign that the manipulation is worse than we could have ever imagined.
Boyd said it was okay to sleep. You really need to get some rest.
Seeing him actually get attacked in his dreams was crazy, but this scene actually gives us a lot of evidence that everything we've been seeing is a result of the boy in white's severe manipulation of the people in this town.
About the dream. There was this boy all dressed in white.
Like what we saw happening in this moment changes everything that we thought we knew, because we are not only given proof that the boy in white can manipulate dreams, but also that he always had plans to use Elgin for Fatima's demonic pregnancy. And this is incredibly important because it's the beginning of the insane amount of deception that's been happening to us.
Gonna be a great mom.
You're pregnant? I just remembered my dream. There was this boy all dressed in white.
And this is confirmation of exactly what I'm talking about. One of the biggest clues that the boy in white and the kimono demon have always been the same being. And this is very significant because it rationally means that the boy in white has always been working with the monsters. But this is not even the worst of it, because there's so much more evidence that I've found showing that this is in fact the case.
I'm sorry.
Help me, Elgin. I can save all of you.
And what happens in these two scenes is how we know for sure that the boy in white and the kimono demon have always been one and the same. Because despite presenting themselves as spirits of some kind, both of them are capable of physically interacting with people. And this is huge, bigger than you can imagine. Especially when you consider both Elgin and Tabitha were wide awake when these things were happening to them. And that means they were not dreaming. This explains how the kimono demon was able to carry the demon baby down into the tunnels, because the entity has always had the ability to do this. But there's even more evidence I have showing that they are actually the same being, and that the boy in white has been intentionally lying to us this entire time.
You have to understand, she's here to help us. She's an angel.
Anything else you can tell me about little boy?
I don't think he really was a little boy.
And this shows us something that we've always known. Whatever the boy really is, this is not his real form. Just like when he uses the kimono demon because he knows it's what Elgin believes an angel to look like. It's obvious that the entity chooses to appear as the boy in white because it makes it easier for him to lead people into his traps. But there's so much more manipulation going on here that we haven't even talked about.
When I was in that chamber, the thing that was telling me to give up, that hope is what the forest fed on, that thing wasn't my wife. So what are you?
Like this right here, this is exactly what I've been trying to tell you. Like in this scene, Boyd not only says that whatever this thing actually is not his wife, but that it was a liar trying to get him to stop fighting back. This is very important for you to understand, because there's something that happened in this specific moment that shows a direct connection between the Abby entity and the boy in white.
It wants you to have hope.
Why?
It's not your fear that feeds the forest boy. It's hope.
Everything lies here.
And this, to me, makes it very clear what's been going on with the boy in white. Boyd literally says that whatever this thing is a liar. And remember, this being showed up at the exact same place where there was something laughing at Boyd for setting it free, while also saying that it was going to torture the people of this town. So this is crazy, because we literally saw the entity doing exactly that to the cicada victims in this same location. Not to mention, we've already been shown that the roots of the trees were made out of fear and blood, which is obviously the complete opposite of hope. So for the boy in white to say the forest is feeding on hope rather than fear, which is the same thing that fake Abby, who we've already established is a liar, was also saying, I think that makes it more than obvious what the boy in white is actually trying to do. It's also very interesting how these two characters are the only ones apart from the boy in white who can manipulate people's dreams, showing that there is a strong connection between all of these three characters. But there's something else I really want you to see, and this is huge, absolutely massive. Because if the boy was fake Abby this entire time, then we have no chance of winning the game. Because when you see this, it's unbelievable.
They've stopped.
Boyd, come back to me.
When you think about what was happening in this scene with everything else in the back of your mind, there's only one logical conclusion. The boy in white must have the ability to control the monsters. In this scene, we clearly see fake Abby stopping the monsters, and he did it in an instant. And this is insane, like it's completely crazy. And with Victor literally saying that it was the boy in white who kept him alive, it's very rational to conclude that the boy has the ability to control the monsters, which by nature would make him the entity. And when you look at everything else from that perspective, suddenly the kimono demon being the one to resurrect Smiley makes a lot more sense than it did before, because it was literally the entity himself who was bringing Smiley back to life. But even with everything we've been analyzing, we've barely even talked about the severity of the boy in white's manipulation, because it actually gets so much worse.
You know that dream I had? When I seen that thing lying there in the dirt this morning, there's something I'm supposed to remember.
This scene is very, very important to understanding the truth about what's going on here, because what this means is that the entity always planned for Boyd to kill Smiley. And how we know this to be true is that Elgin had already seen Smiley coming back to life in his dreams. This is why he had a strong feeling about Smiley's body, and the implanting of this information into his mind is actually a part of the game, just like the nursery rhyme. But the entity is cheating by tampering with and blocking the memories of the people of the town. And this is why what I'm about to show you is so relevant to what's going on in this town.
What is that?
I looked at the notes and I could hear the music.
And the music just magically popped into your head. Doesn't that strike you as odd?
And this is a perfect showing of exactly the type of manipulation that's taking place in this town right now. Like in this scene, we literally see the boy in white using telepathy to talk to Sarah in her mind. And this is big, absolutely huge, the biggest, because it explains how that melody just magically popped into Jade's head. It was the entity himself who used telepathy to place that information of how to play the song into Jade's mind. And we know this is the case with 100% certainty because of one simple fact. The entity allows the existence of the portal trees. He could have sent the monsters to take them down at any time in the past hundreds of years, but he chose not to do it. And that can only mean one thing. Whoever's controlling the monsters wanted them to find the borrow trees. And oh man, this is crazy, because now it starts to make sense why the monsters did not kill Tabitha or Victor's dad when they were coming back in the ambulance. He needed them to tell the people of the town about the borrow trees. That's why the monsters were instructed not to attack. And knowing all of this is crucial to understanding just how massive the level of manipulation from the boy in white really is. Because whether you believe it or not, it actually gets so much worse.
Did you know Christie's fiance was on that bus? What if all this was designed just to see how we react?
The arrival of the bus is undeniable proof that the entity controlling the monsters is also the same being who decides who goes out and who comes into the town. Because there were at least 3 different people on that bus who were clearly chosen by the entity, i.e. Brian and Kelly, who were brought in to torture Boyd himself, and of course Marielle, who is Christie's fiancée. But there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than you might initially be aware of, because when you think about the roles that Tilly and Elgin played in Smiley's resurrection, it becomes very, very obvious that they were brought in specifically by the entity. And considering the bus driver also knew about the nursery rhyme, that means 6 different people were directly and separately manipulated into getting onto that bus. But that's not even all, because Randall himself was also used as a cicada victim, which implies the entity always had plans to use him for something very evil. just like with Elgin. And this is completely insane because when you think about it, this makes it undeniable that the boy in white is the one controlling the monsters. And we know this is the case because he is the only character we have ever seen powerful enough to influence people even if outside of the town. But this also gives us a massive revelation that a lot of people have completely ignored. The entity manipulated every single person on that bus, individually and separately, to make sure they would be there when he was dragging the bus into the town. And this is insane because it means that the boy in white is so much stronger than anything we could have ever imagined. And it also means that no one in the town came in by accident. This is the only logical conclusion that you can have because Smiley literally said that the monsters know the names of everyone in the town. But this also means that the idea that it's the children who are the ones deciding who comes into the town is incredibly unlikely, unless of course the children themselves are in fact evil and working for the entity. But even with all of this in mind, I have to inform you that we haven't even seen the worst of the manipulation that's really going on here.
There's something here. It's laughing at you for setting it free, for bringing it back to town.
And this is how we know with 100% certainty that the manipulation is far worse than we have ever realized. Because in this scene, we can literally see that the entity can observe and hear the people of the town while being completely undetectable. And this is absolutely insane because we saw this same exact thing when the kimono demon was watching Fatima and then immediately disappeared. And it's obvious now that the boy in white is also capable of doing this, which is how he knew about Tabitha digging that hole in the basement. He's always been there watching us. We just couldn't see him because you have to be able to perceive beyond the veil in order for you to be aware of his presence. This is why Sarah specifically is so valuable. She is a conduit. And if we want to even have a chance of winning the game, then Sarah must be kept alive no matter the sacrifice. But because Julie was also invisible when all of this was happening, it obviously implies that this ability to use the veil as a transportational medium is something available to all of the people who were in the dungeon except for Boyd. So basically what I'm saying is that the entity and the music box are also story walkers just like Julie. But even with all of this, we've barely even seen any of the manipulation that the entity has been using on us because it gets so much worse.
We heard a voice on the radio, me and Donna. And whoever it was, he knew what my wife was doing in the basement of our house. I think people are listening. I think people are watching us.
And this right here shows us why things have gotten as bad as they have for the people living in the town. Because the manipulation is truly incredible. But the main reason for the entity's success is because the people in this town completely refuse to share information. Like, think about this. Jim Matthews literally told Boyd that there was someone on the radio who knew about Tabitha digging that hole in the basement, and Boyd, someone who's former military, never even takes 30 seconds to look into where this voice was coming from. Like, come on, man. How can these people be so stupid, man? And you can't use the excuse that, oh, he was afraid Jim Matthews was hallucinating and that he was gonna go postal like Abby, because Jim Matthews literally says to him that Donna also heard that voice on the radio, and yet Boyd never tries to investigate in any way whatsoever. Like, everything we have seen shows that the people in this town are intentionally written to have far below average intelligence, because there's absolutely no logical explanation that can ever be given to explain Boyd's lack of even just basic curiosity to try to understand where that voice on the radio was coming from, especially when you consider that Boyd had literally seen the lighthouse. It just doesn't make any sense at all that he wouldn't consider that there might be someone else living in Fromland, and it's so confusing how he wouldn't even do the bare minimum of talking to Donna and Jim Matthews about the voice on the radio. Like, the complete refusal to even attempt to share information is why we cannot defeat the entity who's controlling the monsters.